Sunday's loss to the Commanders wasn't just another bad outing for the Raiders, it was catastrophic. For many fans, it felt like rock bottom, and in truth, it may have been the worst performance of the season so far. What made it sting even more was the reaction afterward. Social media, radio call-ins, and fan discussions all sounded the same. The season's over. Geno Smith is trash. Ashton Gentry is a bust. When you hear it repeated over and over, it's easy to think it must be true. But as brutal as the game was, not everything being said is reality. Some of it is frustration, some of it is emotion, and some of it is simply exhaustion from years of being burned. The important thing now is separating what's real from what's just noise. Because believe it or not, it's only week 3. There are still 14 games left to play, and if the Raiders can dig out the actual problems, there's still a chance to save this season. The Commanders didn't just beat the Raiders, they dismantled them in every phase of the game. This wasn't a contest lost because of one bad play or one unit falling apart. It was total collapse across offense, defense, and special teams. The offensive line looked completely outmatched. Geno Smith was pressured from the opening drive to the final whistle, finishing with 5 sacks and 24 total pressures allowed. That number isn't just bad, it's unacceptable at the professional level. No quarterback can survive that kind of punishment and still run a functional offense. The run game wasn't spared either. Ashton Gentry carried the ball 17 times for 63 yards, his best game so far statistically, yet it didn't feel like progress. Nearly every yard was earned the hard way, fighting through tacklers who met him as soon as he touched the ball. And then came special teams, where Washington piled up 245 return yards, including a 90-yard punt return touchdown that crushed what little momentum the Raiders had. On defense, it wasn't much better. They allowed over 200 rushing yards, highlighted by a 60-yard touchdown where 3 defenders failed to wrap up. Add in the fact that Marcus Mariota spent most of the game untouched, sacked just once. And you've got a performance that made Raider Nation collectively throw up its hands. When fans cry that the season is over, you can understand the emotion. Sitting at 1-2 after being embarrassed in every aspect of the game, it feels like the same old story. Raider Nation has lived this cycle before. Preseason optimism, flashes of potential, then collapse when it matters most. It's understandable to think the worst. But here's the reality check. This season isn't lost yet. The AFC West is wide open. The Chiefs are 1-2, the Broncos are 1-2, and the Chargers are sitting at 0-3. No team in the division has established dominance. There's still plenty of time for the Raiders to turn things around, but that only happens if they face the problems head-on. To throw away the season in September is an overreaction. But if the issues on the field aren't addressed, the frustration will quickly become reality. Another overreaction swirling around is that Geno Smith is trash. That's the loudest criticism from fans right now. But when you actually break it down, it doesn't hold up. Geno wasn't great against Washington. He didn't control the game, and much of his production came late when the score was already out of hand. Still, he finished 19 of 29 for 289 yards, 3 touchdowns, and no interceptions. Those are not the numbers of a quarterback dragging his team down. The truth is, Geno spent the entire afternoon running for his life. He wasn't holding the ball recklessly. He was trying to extend plays behind a line that offered almost no protection. Think back to Patrick Mahomes in the Super Bowl against Tampa Bay. Even the best quarterback in the world looked human when his offensive line couldn't block. Geno isn't Mahomes, and nobody is pretending he is, but the principle is the same. You can't evaluate a quarterback fairly when he's under siege every snap. Geno isn't the problem. He's a quarterback stranded in chaos. Then there's the narrative around Ashton Gentry. The word bust has been thrown around carelessly, but it's far too early and far too unfair for that label. Against Washington, Gentry had his best game so far with 17 carries for 63 yards, including a 13-yard run where he finally had some space. But most of his carries saw him hit at or behind the line of scrimmage. The offensive line isn't opening holes, period. And when Gentry does get daylight, the numbers show his efficiency is among the best in the league. This kid is not a bust. He's a talented running back stuck in a broken system. The problem isn't his ability, it's the guys in front of him and the way he's being deployed. Labeling him a failure after 3 games when the situation around him is collapsing isn't just wrong. It's lazy analysis, so if Geno isn't the issue, and Gentry isn't a bust, then where does the blame fall? It comes back to coaching. The Raiders' problems aren't just about effort or talent. They're about decisions being made on the sideline. The most glaring example is Brennan Carroll's choice to move Jackson Powers Johnson from center to guard. Last year, once JPJ took over at center, the line stabilized. The Raiders finished 7th in pass protection and 16th in run blocking with him snapping the ball. This year, with him at guard, the line looks bottom 5. Pete Carroll tried to explain it away as continuity, saying they wanted to give Alex Kappa another shot. But continuity means nothing when you're consistently bad. Sticking with a plan that doesn't work isn't strategy, it's stubbornness. It's not just the offensive line. Tyree Wilson is being forced into a defensive end role when his size and power are clearly better suited inside. Isaiah Polamau is being asked to play free safety when his skill set fits the box safety role. Malcolm Kuntz is playing early downs even though his strength is as a situational pass rusher. These are missteps that aren't about player performance but about coaching vision, or lack thereof. The staff is trying to force players into roles that don't match their skills. And when you zoom out, it feels less like experimentation and more like ego. Coaches trying to prove their plan works rather than adjusting to what doesn't. That's how seasons get wasted. The path forward isn't complicated. Move JPJ back to center. Slide Jordan Meredith into guard. Restructure the line so Geno has a chance to breathe and Gentry has room to run. On defense, adjust the alignments. Let Tyree Wilson get more snaps inside where he can disrupt with power. Keep Kuntz in pass rush situations where he's most effective. Stop forcing Polamau into deep coverage when he's built to play downhill. These are fixable problems. But the fix requires one thing this coaching staff hasn't shown yet: the willingness to admit they were wrong. That's what makes the upcoming game against the Bears so important. This isn't just about avoiding a 1-3 start. It's about sending a message to the players in the locker room, to the fans, and to the rest of the league. The message that the staff can adapt, that they can learn, that they can put this team in a position to compete again. Because right now, the AFC West is still up for grabs. But if the Raiders keep doubling down on failed decisions, it won't be for long. Sunday's loss was ugly, maybe the worst of the season. It left fans calling for the end before the calendar even flips to October. But the truth is, the season isn't over. Geno Smith isn't trash. Ashton Gentry isn't a bust. The real problem is systemic. It's coaching. And until that changes, the Raiders will keep stumbling. The good news? It's still fixable. The bad news? The clock is already ticking. Raider Nation, now it's your turn. Do you believe the season is salvageable, or is it time to hit the panic button? Is Geno the guy to lead this team, or should the Raiders rethink their future at quarterback? And what about Ashton Gentry? Is he really a bust, or just a young back trapped in a broken system? Drop your thoughts in the comments below.